Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. Today I want to talk about a hidden crisis in our society. What do these 6 celebrities have in common? I could have chosen hundreds. Opioids. Correct answer. Addiction. We talked about it with social media. In 2016, in America, more than 42,000 people died from opioid overdoses. And 17,000 of those were from prescription opioids. That is on par with people dying from gun deaths in the States. The problem in the UK is also escalating. Last year, there were more than 2,000 deaths from opioid prescription deaths. That is reaching on par with road traffic accidents in the UK. What are these opioids? Obviously, everybody's heard of heroin, but there are prescription opioids. There are synthetic drugs. Some common names: fentanyl, implicated in the death of Prince. Tramadol, you might have heard of in the news earlier this year in the UK. A nurse was trying to take in 300 tablets into Egypt, and she was arrested at the airport. But this problem is escalated from being a prescription problem. For the instant gratification generation, now with 4 clicks of a mouse, you can get access to all these painkillers very easily. Can you just imagine a 10-year-old messing around on the internet? So that's going to be 5 years down the line. People are going to be talking about opioid problems within the teenagers. And these are drugs that would carry a 7-year prison sentence if they were, taken without prescription. Some websites, as I said, offer 1,500 different varieties of painkillers. Overnight delivery in a brown paper package. Instant gratification. Public Health UK estimates that 1 in 13 people have taken medication without prescription. It is estimated by Public Health England and elsewhere, there was 23.8 million prescriptions written in the UK last year for opioids. That's 1 in 2. So either somebody's taking a lot, or a lot of people are taking these opioids. And the problem is escalating. 80% increase over a past decade or so. A couple of weeks ago, you had Abdul talking about admission to hospitals. Emergency admissions to hospitals cost at least, on average, £3,000. Multiply £3,000 by 20,000 opioid overdose admissions, and you get to £60 million. That's the amount of money that's wasted directly. Again, conservative estimates is that about 200,000 people in the UK are problem users of painkillers. Direct cost of those prescriptions is about 260 odd million. And 90% of that is wasted because opioids do not work for chronic pain. And add on top of that, all the indirect costs, broken families, children being taken into care, lost productivity, and you get into billions very, very quickly. As I said, the vast majority of prescriptions for chronic pain do not work. People often ask for stronger and stronger medication. But science shows over and over again that the opioids for chronic pain are ineffective. 2013, British Medical Journal published an article that suggested that 90% of prescriptions for the 2 most common pains, as chronic back pain and osteoarthritis, were ineffective. So £260 million that you heard for the prescriptions, 90% of that was wasted. That's a quarter of £1 billion there and then, just down the drain. Chronic pain, unlike acute pain that you could have if you were hit by a missile coming at you at 100 miles an hour, is different. The causes of it are different. You might get hurt by that ball coming at you at 100 miles an hour. You might get a broken bone. You might get bruising. But that heals after a few weeks. What people fail to realize how addictive, and Big Pharma does not tell you how addictive these things are. You can quickly move from a prescription of oxycodone of 110 milligram tablet per day to 4 within weeks to 200 milligrams per day, and that can be fatal in a matter of months. What can you do? So what I'm going to tell you now is not scientifically proven. There's no science behind it. I'm not a doctor. I've never been a scientist. But let me tell you 3 stories. I know I had chronic pain. There was a time, first year at secondary school. One summer morning, I woke up. My joints were frozen. Excruciating pain. They carted me off to hospital. Took them 2 weeks to defrost me and get my joints moving again. That was long enough to fall in love with the first nurse in my life, but that's another story for another day. Fast forward a few years, I've been on different painkillers, sitting in an exam room for my final exams. Corporate taxation, I think it was. Boring as ever. I'm still boring. I'm looking at the paper. I cannot pick up the pain because my hands were just rock solid. And that was in the days when all your life depended on your final exams. So that made me realize then that the painkillers themselves were not helping. I had to find a different route. So what did I do? We heard about keeping a journal. Listen to your body. What you're eating, what you're drinking, what causes you stress. You adopt techniques, whether it's yoga, mindfulness, relaxation, chanting, whatever it is. Try those things out. If you've been taking medication for more than 6 months and it's not working, then something else needs to be done. Okay, this time I take Q&As.
What do you think some of the solutions are for this epidemic?
I think people have to be educated that how addicted these painkillers can be, and they should, unless it's very essential, they should not be prescribed. Alternative therapies should be tried out. As I said, relaxation, mindfulness, what you're eating and drinking. In my case, it was, some foods can trigger these pains and aches, so I try to avoid them when I can. And if I'm getting into a stressful situation, try to take a step back. Think about what it is that's causing me pain.
I have comment and I have question. So there's one scientist, doctor, called Bruce Lipton, who was working for Human Genome Project and left the project, and now he wrote a book about biology of belief. So do you think if we speak with our body, with ourselves, can we self-heal ourselves?
Well, in my view is that chronic pain is more brain pain. And I'm not saying that in a sort of dismissive or pejorative sort of way. Our mind is there to protect ourselves, as Maria was talking about before. It does a lot of things, and it does that to protect us. So when the signals for chronic pain are being sent from the brain to whatever joints or whatever part of the body it is going to, so the solution is not medication, the solution is up here. And we need to sit back, we need to think about what it is that's causing that pain. It could be something in our private life, it could be something at work, it could be, these triggers might be hidden triggers, but they're there. And you need to be aware of them, you need to acknowledge them.
Why do you think it's such an epidemic in the USA?
Well, it's not that, I said the problem is also in the UK. It started, again, the big pharma companies, a majority of them are US-based, so they were the first ones to develop these drugs. And there are a lot of class action suits are taking place in the States now, and that is very similar to what used to happen with the tobacco companies back in the 60s and 70s. There were, all these studies were coming out, and there were all these class action suits and so on. And over a period of 40, 50 years, the use of those cigarettes has gone down dramatically. And the same is going to happen with these opioids.
So once somebody has become addicted to an opioid, whether it's through having a serious illness and having chronic pain and being medicated it, or through engaging in opioids through the street or something, what do you think is the best way to get people off the drug?
I think, again, referring back to one of the earlier speeches, if you've been on a drug for 6 months and you realize it's not working, then you have to step back and start taking a journal and looking at the situation, what it is that's causing you the triggers. Yeah? And if you can do that,
you don't encourage
yeah.
the use of some prescription opioids as a sort of temporary measure, especially for street addicts, say, to get them to start taking.
Well, they go on those prescription methadones and things,
exactly.
prescription opioids. Okay, just to conclude, if somebody offered you a bag of heroin on the street and said, take this, you tell them to, take a running jump.
So much.
But that is exactly what happens. Exactly what happens. You go to somebody you trust and somebody you respect, and they give you a prescription for heroin in a blister pack. And that's all it is. If you get hooked on them, they will blowtorch your life. Thank you very much.